I'll give it thank you. Thanks, Ross. Are you feeling better, man? Can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes, sir. All is good.
Excellent.
Oh, put your background up again, your makeshift background there, Ross.
It's taped on my chin. I'm real high tech.
That would be about the limit of my ability too. This is great. I'll give it another minute or so to see if anybody else shows. Or Chris, maybe you already know. We have 7.
We have 7. So Betsy would have been the last person that responded,
Okay.
confirming they were coming.
I'll wait another minute and then we'll go ahead and start. Well, I think we should probably go ahead. I will call this meeting of the Albemarle County Historic Preservation Committee to order. We do have a quorum present. The first item is the approval of minutes. And before that, I'd like to read the statement. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20A16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. Opportunities for public access to this meeting are posted on the county's website at the county calendar. The public has real-time audio-visual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone, both as provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. Please note that this online meeting is a public record and is subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. Chat function has been turned off for this meeting. Everyone who is participating today, please remember it's good practice to mute your microphone until it is your turn to speak. So the approval of minutes for September 2021. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, I would accept a motion for approval.
I move to approve the minutes from September.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve those minutes, September 2021. All in favor, raise your hand. I will abstain since I wasn't at the meeting. So those minutes are approved. We have a couple of discussion items today. The first one is the top 10 list, the priority recommendations, and a status and committee project priorities. You received an email attachment from Chris on this topic, and we're now open for discussion on that. There have been some changes made to those accomplishments. A number of them have been completed, and the information in red was added to show the changes that have been made to that list of priorities and accomplishments. So I'm opening this up for discussion at this point.
I'll jump in here. I'll share my screen. I created a chart that puts all the priority recommendations on a single page for the committee members to look at in one location. Hold on 1 second. Are you doing the chart?
Very good.
As you can see, I've highlighted the committee's current projects, which mostly fall under the recommendation of education.
I had a question about that comment in the document. It said all of the HPC's educational information was removed with no plan to make it available again.
Right. Yeah, that was, or to jump in, that was noted for 2020. And since then, not all, but most of that information, it was the transition from the old website to the new website was that note was referring to.
So
Does that doesn't have anything to do with the HP website with the photographs on it, correct?
The current HP website
Right,
that has some photographs that's missing
Right.
some information. I guess it's
About
tied to in a sense, but because the old website had more descriptions under those photos, which the new website doesn't have the descriptions.
the reason I ask is because one of those photographs is of Pleasant Green, and the last sentence
Mhm.
is one of the oldest standing homes in Crozet today, and it's not there.
It's
any
not
longer.
standing anymore.
Yeah, that needs to be, that sentence needs to be taken out.
Yeah. I think Margaret and I's thought process behind it was just gathering the photos we did have and the descriptions we did have, and then ultimately some of those, like you mentioned, would need to be tweaked and potentially removed if any of the photos. We wanted to update some of the photos we had for the website.
Does anybody have anything else to say about those photographs? I think it's good to have some, and it is a mixture of both current properties and also of properties that have disappeared, which is fine. We could theoretically add more or change the ones that are there or whatever. But in any case, that Pleasant Green one does need to have that sentence taken out at least. Other comments or questions?
I think it's
I was,
wonderful
Go
to
ahead, Ann.
have them there. And if you want a couple more sentences to put in about Bleak House, I know I was present when Ed did the documentation there, and the restoration, is complete. So if it's definitely still standing and it's been beautifully restored. So I don't know what to say, but maybe Ed can write us something for that. Because all the others have a nice little paragraph, and this one's pretty short.
Right, that's true. Well, would you like to add something for the benefit of, if you agree to write something further that could be added to that description, I think that'd be great, since you had you did a lot of studying on that place.
I will ask Alice Cannon to provide it, and that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I noticed that we had crossed out things that we've done in prior years. And I'm not sure if that's because it's included as a link somewhere else. Specifically, I'm talking about the work that we did as part of the Community Remembrance Project with the exhibits that we made and the posters. Maybe that, I guess I'm just saying, like, I don't think we should delete the work that we have done. But that it would, I think it'd be good to live as a record of what's been completed or accomplished, and then maybe say, what are we working on now? I just wouldn't want to lose that material.
Right. Chris, the the accomplishments list was changed to read through 2020, and 2015 to 2018 was taken out. I wonder if there's a way to leave some of that in and simply add at the end of each section or subsection, add what has been done between 2018 and 2020.
Yeah, I believe it was just Margaret's visualization of what had been done. I don't think it was the intention of kind of removing it, that we're kind of moving on. I think it was just more of what had been done, but it probably could be better visualized of adding it to the bottom list, of just like a running list versus a crossed out list.
I think that would be good. I think Liz is correct. I don't want to see that information just disappear.
Right.
Some of it kind of lives on the website under like committee projects. There's the country store booklet and poster, which I think predates me. The Rio Cartersburg presentation, which I know some of us were involved in. I don't think the Lost Albemarle posters are displayed on the website, but if we wanted those, that's something that has a lot of Ed's pictures.
Mhm. Yep. So it sounds like there's a good deal of additional work that needs to be done to the website. We don't have a list yet, Chris, do we, or a total number of the real estate letters that went out this year?
No, I'm still compiling
Okay,
that
all
information.
right. And the GIS functionality, I think that's important. I don't know that last sentence in red under 2 would have to be in the report. It depends on whether or not this report will be posted someplace. And I think it would be nice if it were to be posted someplace, I think, or linked to our HP page.
What a similar visualized list of that kind of shows our priority recommendations and the current status on
Right.
on the website. Okay.
Right. Other comments or questions? It's
I'd
great.
like-
to have this.
Chris, I might send you some updated and a more consistent description of the historic markers background and current proposal. I think it'd be good when we're talking about the work that we've done in drafting the historic markers and what they're commemorating, to be consistent with what the directive from Office of Equity and Inclusion, like how that all started, right? That it was it was part of the OEI's led effort to, as part of the community remembrance project, right? To just give a little more context to what that initial task was and what we're working on now. And to be consistent in what we're calling it. I just personally have a problem using the word historical. It just is a pet peeve of mine, but to be consistent in saying historic markers or historic local marker, or, you know, just to refine those 2 bullet points.
Thank you. Other comments?
Thanks for compiling this. Looks good.
I will add, as noted at the bottom, some of the recommendations pulled from the HP plan also line up with some of the potential HP committee projects, such as the preservation awards. It was noted as a recommendation to create or kind of formulate preservation awards, or if there were existing ones, kind of associated with those. So it seems like some of the recommendations we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel because it was they were thought of previously.
Mhm. Yes.
We'll say some of them were a time capsule, especially specifically B. The wording for B, it's a time capsule capitalizing on the popularity of the internet, which is still applicable. But the HP plans from, I believe, 2000, so it was interesting to read the wording on that and how far we've come and the internet has come since then.
We'll see if the internet remains popular.
Yeah.
Anything else, folks? Well, Chris, thank you for you and Margaret. And if this is, my suggestion would be that if some of these changes that we've talked about are incorporated, that another document be sent out to us that will indicate what changes were made here.
Okay. And it's the last thought I had is I thought Margaret and I discussed before she went on vacation was the top 10 list was created at the board's request, and some of these have been completed and are items that are completed, they're done. So there might be opportunity, and we need to figure out if it's something that would need to go back to the board since the board requested it, of kind of rotating out and updating our top 10 list, which I think was the thought and idea Nancy was getting at the previous meeting, of if our top 10 list, which is actually 12, has items that we've already completed and there's no additional action items on those, if they could be potentially be cycled out where they're still in the larger list, but they're not a top 10 recommendation anymore, such as this, like the first item, we already created a permanent historic preservation committee. Does that need to be in the top 10 list anymore?
Right. As long as these are items which are completed, and list them at the bottom or something, because I don't think we should be
like cycle them
erasing
down or
things.
something.
And I must have missed, was there some discussion about number 12? I'm looking at the long form, the other attachment where it says presentations to the board, and it says not an active focus. So can anybody update me on that or some other time if today is not appropriate? Because as far as the Crozet Master Plan was concerned, there was a tremendous concern about the zoning change that was proposed for a block downtown, which has 6 contributing structures on it, and the fact that we have no protection possible in our ordinances. So I think that certainly has raised everybody's awareness about this issue that's described in evaluate the county's progress on these preservation priorities and the need for any kind of overlay district ordinance. So I guess I'll just drop that bomb back on everybody, and we can talk about it another time.
I think you're right. I don't think we want this to disappear at all.
Right.
Because it's ultimately a very important one, and it needs to be kept in focus. I realize that one of the problems we've had in the past, recent past, and Margaret has talked about this at other meetings, is that there's nothing currently in the work plan, the staff work plan, that allows for the preparation of an ordinance or anything leading up to that. And so that would have to be, my understanding is that would have to be put into the staff work plan, and that would require being looked at by the board also. Is that correct, Ann?
Well, the work, whenever there is staff requirement in the Community Development Department, then that is part of the work plan, yes.
Right.
But I also was told by someone that other counties in Virginia have somehow found the authority that people tell us we lack to do this.
Right.
So I think lots of other topics, and certainly, in historic preservation in the past, it's been the community groups and people like you all who have done the dirty work of gathering this information.
Right.
And then then that jump starts things going forward. So I'll just leave it with that for now.
Right. Okay. I think this is a topic that we really need to have some serious discussion about in the upcoming future. And it's ultimately one of the most important things that this committee was originally established to do, and which has still never been done. So I would like to see that stay in some sort of place on the list, and I would like to see it discussed in the future with more input from staff and from the board, and with a definitive work plan to get some business accomplished on that front. Okay. Anything else? All right, so Chris, you will update this based on our conversation today, make changes that need to be made, and perhaps bring it back for additional looking by the group. Maybe
Yes.
for next time, could that be done?
Yeah, I think I could work that out for
Okay.
the next meeting.
All right, is there anything further on this topic before we move on? All right. Newtown Rosenwald School. You all were sent by Chris, I think, a while back, a copy of an article that appeared in the Crozet Gazette on 7th of September of this year, talking about the work that's beginning on the restoration of the Newtown Rosenwald School. And the school now belongs to the Mount Zion Church. And so there are several people now worrying about this and working on this. I think that if there's anything that we can do to support them, I think it'd be a really good thing. And I think the opportunity to visit those people and to look at what can be done with this fledgling project would be very helpful. The Building Goodness Foundation is looking at this, and also Ruby Smith, who is out in that neighborhood and has been working hard on getting this underway, is looking for an attorney and trying to put together a steering committee. So there are going to be a number of initial decisions that have to be made before they can proceed with this project. And I think it would be nice if we could offer ourselves as a contact to see what, if anything, we could do at this stage to help them get this project started. I think it's an important one. I think ultimately the Newtown School may deserve an historic marker itself.
Is this something where the committee could ask Jared to write a letter to Ms. Smith and offer our assistance and see where they're going? And I don't want to march in there and tell them what they need. I'd rather have them be able to share with us. I understand you weren't saying that, but it's tricky when people have fought for 20 years to get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden, all this help comes out of nowhere. So Yeah, Diane understands. So anyway, I know you all will tread gently and respectfully, and that's fabulous. And I love this idea. Thank you.
Other comments?
Do we have any, I mean, you mentioned some names. Do we have any connections with anyone involved with the school or the church?
Not that I'm aware of. We do have contact information, which was provided in the article.
Okay.
At the end of the article, there are phone numbers and some names as well.
Well, we certainly should find a way to voice our support in some way, shape, or form, and just let them know we're there, and maybe that should at least help.
I agree.
Support and enthusiasm.
Right.
I agree. Do we need to make that an action or vote on that? Or is that direction enough?
I think it's probably enough. Might want to talk with Margaret too, to get her input, and then we could probably proceed from there. And a letter could go out from the committee offering support if that seems appropriate. That might be a good place to start rather than just showing up on the bus, you know.
It's not within a district, Greenwood, right? Or is it, or in Afton?
It's just outside the northern border, I think, of the Greenwood Historic District, because that
That's correct.
goes pretty closely along 250.
Yes.
Okay.
Has anybody else, I know I've been up there and seen it going back years. Has
Yeah,
anybody seen it?
I've driven by there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting spot, and right across the road was the Greenwood Chemical Factory, which was one of the worst polluted sites in the US. $35 million was spent initially, and a couple of buildings were built there to help stabilize that property. But there's still plenty of work to be done. That's going to go on for a long time. So this would be nice for the Newtown community to have something a little more positive in their backyard than just the chemical plant or
Yes.
remains.
Yeah, there's been a lot of deaths up in Newtown from that chemical plant. I grew up below it, and Summers Rest is just to the east of the chemical plant.
Right.
It was a neat historic spot as well, but
Although the house is gone.
the house is gone.
Right. Yeah, I have a good deal of information about Summers Rest, which was an important site for a long time. That was one of the things that Archdeacon Neve of the Blue Ridge established for the benefit of women from Richmond who needed a place to go for vacations at low cost or no cost during the summers.
Mhm.
Huh. So I've seen all the more modern vernacular houses in there, but I didn't realize there was a bigger one that had gone away.
Yeah. It was quite a
So,
bit.
yeah. Well, I know the remediation on the plant is in perpetuity. So there's nothing that's ever, they're going to have to keep that going. But that was in the 50s. I was a kid. Johnny Cockrell was in my class at school, and his father was the one who poisoned all the cows and blew up the town and himself. So it was a really, really sad situation.
Mr. Cockrell blew his arms off, and we would go to his house on Halloween, and he'd come to the door with no arms. That was scary.
Oh, I thought he was killed in it. I didn't realize, because there were several people who were killed in the explosion, but I thought he was one of them. Okay.
No, he
Crazy.
wasn't killed in it. Several people were. Yes, that's correct. That's
Mhm.
correct. It was kind of awful. All right. Well, if you go back and look at that Crozet Gazette article that was forwarded to you, you will see names and numbers in there. And also, of course, the Building Goodness Foundation, which has been involved with those folks as well. I think that would be a good thing to look at.
Does the stationery of the committee or whatever form a letter would be sent show the list of the people on the committee? Because there may be people involved in the project who know any number of the people on the Historic Preservation Committee, and we don't know them necessarily. So I don't know if there's something on the left-hand column that shows everybody
I don't think
and
so.
how to get a hold of us or not. So,
I don't
okay.
think, so, but it can be signed with everybody's names. We've done that in some cases, and for some letters in the past, especially the DHR. And so that could be done again, yeah. I think that's a good idea. All right. Very good. Before we move on to work group updates, I wanted to mention this is Historic Preservation Committee annual report. There was a mistake in it on page 1, meeting dates and attendees and so on. My name was grayed out in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like anyway meetings. That says I wasn't a member, but that's not correct, obviously. And I had talked with Chris about that, and that has been changed. The copies you all got and that I got don't show that, but that will be fixed. This information and some other information from this annual report will be used in our report to the PAPA meeting, which is coming up, I think on the, Liz, is that the 3rd? I believe November 3rd. I think that's right. Approximately, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So there will be some of that information will go into that report. Margaret normally compiles that data, and then it goes to the person making the report to Papa. It's a brief 3-minute report. All right. Work group updates, tourism, heritage education, local historic markers. The subcommittee will be meeting in just a little bit. Liz, do you have anything you want to say in advance of that?
Just that Nancy wasn't able to make this meeting, but she left a message for me to just update the group that they are working on placing, she and Margaret are working on placing the order for the Riverview Farm marker. It will be similar to the existing kind of design that we've established for the local markers, the ones that we've been working on as part of the Community Remembrance Project work, with some slight revisions to maybe improve visibility, legibility, things like that. So that order is underway for the Ivy Creek to be located at the Ivy Creek natural area.
It was, it looked to me, I got a copy of that note from Nancy, and it looked to me like the markers cost a little more than they used to.
That wouldn't be surprising given the state of global
Yeah,
economics.
yeah. All right. Thank you. And I know you're having a subcommittee meeting at the end of this meeting. Demolition report. Is there anything, there were only 2 items, I think, on that list. Was there anything that leaped out at any of you?
I looked them both up. One is below Tandem, right near
Right.
20. The only thing they had was a property sketch, but no, I've never noticed a house back in there. There's no date, there's no improvement information, just a sketch. So I'm assuming it's collapsed, and I don't know.
I don't
This
know.
is not part of Galaxy Farm, right, Ross?
No.
Because there were 2 older houses on that is
Right.
just downslope. Okay.
It's downslope to the east of the old house, the Tandem, and I think it was I can't remember now because it's been quite a while since I've looked, but I think it was a pretty unimportant building, and some sort of secondary building, and older, but not really old by any means, and certainly not anything of great interest.
And I couldn't tell about the Bleak House Hollow. I looked that up. There's several improvements on that parcel. There's a bank barn that's quite old, 1840 it says. There are some outbuildings, and then I believe the cottage was in the 30s. But I was curious about the bank barn. I didn't know if that I couldn't understand what's being demolished.
Yeah, I want to know too, because I missed that.
Yeah,
Now, is this on the Cannons, the Bleak House property proper, or somewhere else?
on the Canaans.
Because the bank barn is across the street from the house. They moved the road between the barn and the house, the nice big 2-story barn. Okay. Yikes.
So I don't think there was any clarification in that. I don't have it in front of me right now, but what I looked at wasn't very clear of what was being demolished.
Yeah, it just, the work description just mentions the shed, so I'll double check and see if I can find out more information on more.
I mean, some of those outbuildings are the historic fabric of those properties, whether it's a spring house or what have you.
And then back to the other one on Scottsville Road, I believe I was looking at the street view, and that one looked like it was been vacant since 2007, and the most recent street view shows a collapsed building. So I think it's been vacant for some time. So that's probably why it's kind of dropped off the records.
And that's the one behind Tandem.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to document there.
I don't think there is. Yeah, I don't think so. All right, thank you. New owners of historic properties. Threatened properties to watch, and somebody has said that Dunlora was recently sold. Does anyone have any additional information about that?
Just Frank Bailiff with Southern Development purchased it. It closed in September.
Oh.
So I have not spoken with him to find out what their plans are for the house. Hopefully it's like Brook Hill, where they plan to restore it. I don't know.
Right. The at Brook Hill also, there, according to the documentation, there are actually supposed to be 2 historic markers placed within that parcel relating to Brook Hill itself. The last time I looked, which was not very long ago, neither of those had been put up. I did not ask anybody about it because I realize there's still work going on that site. So, but presumably that's something that should be kept in mind. I've looked back at all of the agreements that were signed by the developer, and that was one that they agreed to. So hopefully that will take place. Other questions?
Do you remember if there was a location on the site plan for those markers, or is that something to be determined at Brook Hill?
I think there was, one of them was pretty close to the house, and I've forgotten where the other one was. I don't have that in front of me, but I believe that was in the plans, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Alan Taylor will be the guy I'll talk to him about that. Okay, good.
Very
Is it
good.
Southern Development or
No,
River?
Riverbend is Brook Hill.
Oh, Brook Hill. I'm sorry.
Brook Hill, yeah.
And Frank is my back-to-back fence neighbor, so I'll send him a text and ask him what he's going to do with the Dunlora house.
All right.
Daniel has his hand up.
Yes,
Sorry, I had a question actually about a demolition that I haven't seen on a report, but occurred down in my neck of the woods. And it's where the old Valmont Dairy barn used to be. There was a building there behind that. And I tried to find any demolition report or anything about that. The building, I just saw it go down over the weekend, bulldoze down next to me. And then I didn't know by chance it would be brought to the attention of the committee or if there's any other things there. It's of particular, I'd say, interest. The dairy is quite neat there and some of its history, but more that it's on the land of Scott's Landing, where there's been a lot of archaeology over the time, looking for the ruins of the original courthouse. So it was on James River Road near the old Valmont Dairy. A house came down.
I don't believe a permit was ever requested for that.
Yeah, I'll double check our systems, but yeah, if we didn't get, if it didn't show on the report that it's submitted, it's more likely one wasn't submitted.
And wasn't this the place where somebody was wanting to do archaeology just a year or two ago? Isn't that Valmont?
It's all right. If you want to find it on a map, I would say Scott's Landing Drive.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure is it there. Just over there. But yeah, it was one of the two structures that was there. I never got up close enough to see it per se, so I don't know anything about the date within it, but it was just one, that saw demolished, and I was like, I'll ask about this on the.
Was it the big barn or the house?
It was the house behind it. The barn is still there. The big red barn that was the heart of Valmont Dairy is
Yeah,
still
the
there.
barn I think is more historic than the house.
Yeah.
So that's good if that's still standing.
Yeah, I was just wondering if any more, sometimes, crossover of materials that could have been used in an earlier house, but if hopefully it's an acceptable loss per se. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right. Anything further? We're down near the end of the agenda. And our next meeting will be November 22nd, and I'm assuming we will have that meeting. It's a little before Thanksgiving, but we usually have that one, although we may not have the one in December. I haven't.
That's where I would jump in and
All
go
right.
ahead and preemptively ask if the committee members want to have the meeting in December, because I think discussing with Margaret, that date is, let me double check. I think that is the Monday after Christmas, the 27th. And I know the past, or at least past 2 years I've been here, we haven't had a December meeting.
Right.
The dates line it up like they are, and it's not likely.
Yeah, that's frequently been the case.
Yeah.
If that's how we feel, I would like to see a motion to that effect,
Yeah.
that we cancel the meeting of December 27th. Ross, you're muted. Ross,
I'll motion that we cancel that meeting of December 27th.
is there a second?
I can, if I'm allowed, I can never remember.
Actually, you're not allowed.
I can't, never mind. Somebody else do it.
I'll second the motion. Okay, very good. All in favor of canceling the December 27th meeting, raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you.
What's the date for November? Is it the 29th or the 22nd?
The 22nd,
Thank you.
very good. All right, before we adjourn the full committee meeting, I have something I want to say. First of all, thanks to everyone for wishing me a happy birthday. That was very nice of you, and quite a surprise. Today I turned 77 years old, the lucky sevens, double sevens. My health is fine. My not having been here the last two meetings was more because my wife has had some health issues that have had to be addressed. So they have been addressed. This will be my last historic preservation meeting, though my term does not expire until June of 2023. I've been a member and chairman for 25 years, since 1996. I was on the County Planning Commission for 4 terms and served 3 years as chairman of that. I was original member of the City Historic Preservation Commission beginning in the early 1970s, and I worked with Ed Lay on writing the city's first historic preservation ordinance. I founded the Prophet Historic District in 1998. I've owned, restored, and lived in 2 state and national register properties therein. I became interested in historic preservation in the late 1950s. In high school, my father's secretary wrote a book on the historic homes of Page County, Virginia, where I grew up, and I visited many of those sites with her, and that kind of broke the ice as far as I was concerned. My greatest personal pride in this committee's role has been in helping to advise on the recent restoration of Fendowry, which I think was an extremely important development. My greatest regret is that we have not gotten a preservation ordinance approved in the county. But I think it's time to let younger historic preservation enthusiasts and experts take full control of county efforts to continue the expansion of our current work. The present committee members are the best qualified and talented we've ever had to do this in the 25 years since I've been a member of this group. My special thanks go especially to Margaret Matuszewski for all her many years of advice and support, which have made my job so much easier. I have agreed, the county has asked me, and I have agreed to continue to be available for consultation or advice on specific HP matters or anything that anybody may desire in the future. I appreciate all the work that all of you, as well as your esteemed predecessors, have done to foster and promote historic preservation in Albemarle County. May you continue to do so. I am so grateful to everyone for your work. I will not be present at the upcoming PAPA meeting. Perhaps Margaret or Ross will need to offer the committee's remarks on that occasion. Margaret will be in touch with the person who's going to be doing that, and that will be up to her and perhaps Ross to decide. In any case, I want to thank you so much for everything you've done. I look forward to hearing nothing but good news in the future, and I will stay in touch. Anything that anybody wants to ask me about or give me a hard time about, they're welcome to do so. You know how to reach me, and I appreciate all of it. Thank you. This meeting is hereby adjourned.
Wow. Well, that's a heartbreak. Thank you for all you've done. My God. I drive by your house all the time. I'm going to start knocking on the door now.
Okay. See that you knock on the door. You know where I am.
All righty.
It should be easy.
Good luck, Jared. Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much
Jared.
to all of you.
Gee.
Thank you so much, Jared.
Thanks, Jared. I'll keep bugging you.
Yes, indeed.
I missed you from being at the library, but you know, now I'll have to miss you all over again.
Very good. Well, the rest of you have a wonderful committee meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, let's see, Diane and Pete, I don't have anything, too intentionally planned for our meeting. Happy to just kind of discuss where we think we are. Sounds like we're making good progress on the existing markers. I sent out the sort of draft materials for helping shape the proposed local marker program. I also had a call last week with Margaret, it was maybe last week or the week before, and someone from the Office of Equity and Inclusion, Putnam Ivy DeCortez. Emily Kilroy, who's with communications for the county, was supposed to join us and couldn't make it. So we're going to reschedule a time to talk to really get a better understanding of sort of higher level direction on framing this program. Not to say that it's not something we all don't think is viable and you know, a good addition to the county, but I think we at this point need a little more direction in framing what this would look like as a county program. So hopefully we'll be able to reschedule that and coordinate more with OEI. We've envisioned this program sort of living under that umbrella of Office of Equity and Inclusion, and obviously we need to make sure that is their understanding as well. So I'll certainly keep you all updated.
I do have a report.
Please.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do have a report on Union Run. Jennifer Liu has been in touch with me and with Diane and with Pastor White and with Margaret about the revisions that her committee has made to the draft that we proposed.
And that's from DHR, revisions from DHR.
And I can read it or I can send it to people by email. It has been approved. The revision has been approved by Pastor White, and it is to go to Jennifer's committee around Thanksgiving or between Thanksgiving and Christmas, as she puts it. And then if the committee approves, then the state will okay the marker.
The state will approve it in their December meeting. Was that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then the language goes to the fabricator.
What, if you don't mind, just what was the change? Was it substantive? Like, can you just
They rearranged a few things, and then Diane had a change that she wanted specifically, and Jennifer and she worked on the wording for that, and that was okayed by Pastor White. I'm glad to read it if people would like to hear it.
Sure.
Soon after the Civil War, the Reverend Robert Hughes, and it gives his birth and death dates, and other freedmen organized the Union Branch Baptist Church, later known as Union Run Baptist Church. Spiritual life was vital to formerly enslaved African Americans, and establishing churches and creating communities were of primary importance. Thomas Jefferson Randolph of Edgehill deeded 1 acre to the church's deacons in 1867. The congregation purchased the old limestone church building and re-erected it on this site, where it's also served as a school. The church became a cornerstone of the community. The Reverend Hughes, pastor for 3 decades, was interred in the churchyard, the final resting place of hundreds of community members.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you for working on that.
So assuming that is voted on by the committee favorably, that is the wording that would appear on the marker.
Great. And then that would be under a different timeline for installation because it would be installed through VDOT.
That's correct.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we certainly want to continue to coordinate installation, unveiling, and all of that. If the church is receptive to that.
I think they will be. They're planning a dedication ceremony, and I know they would be very pleased to see some familiar faces and some people they don't know but who worked on this project.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts on some of the materials shared? We had a little bit with I shared these right after our last meeting, and so I've time has sort of passed, and let's see. So the two things I have right now are the what have I draft? A new document organized by describing the marker program, explaining the criteria, and then some internal process notes. I also worked on drafting an application for nomination. That would be sort of the here's what someone might fill out if they're interested in submitting a topic for consideration. Any thoughts on those documents?
Do we know if the program will be continued on through next year, even though an ongoing program may not be established? Or is the funding only for this year?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Chris, do you have any?
I think we're still trying to suss that out, of figuring out if the funding was just for these 5 markers or if the funding's a continual thing. And I'm not sure if, I'll double check with Margaret when she gets back, but I'm not sure if that's been figured out yet, if that was a continual fund or is a fund that we need to go back to the board and ask for.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, if it seemed like when we met with when Anne has been on our calls, it's sort of like, oh yes, of course. It's,
yeah, it seems like it's assumed, but I'm not sure if it's just like a informal process that we just need to go back and ask for it again, but it's been budgeted for, or
yeah, it's sort of where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
We all, like I said, we all believe in it and want it, and think it is supported. You know, I think OEI does support it, and I think the board supports it, and I think the community, you know, there's interest there. So maybe that is something to consider, Betsy, is well, I don't know, you know, do we, I don't know, just all the more reason to kind of keep plugging away at drafting the framework, so that we can clearly articulate our vision and the process to see these markers come to fruition. Hi, Dan. Got your hand raised.
Yes, I reached out to Emily. I didn't hear anything back from her. I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. What is she invited to do, to her role with how we partner with her or engage with her about a survey? Was that what?
No, no. Margaret was coordinating a conversation between OEI, so Siri's former, you know, department Siri was formerly in, but we met with someone named Putnam who's new, and so really the focus of that call was to kind of get her up to speed on what we've been doing, on, you know, how the 5 markers that we've been working on kind of came to us, and then introducing the, you know, what we are envisioning, basic, you know, kind of outlining that. And honestly, I'm not sure. Emily Kilroy is like the communications director, and I might not be getting her title 100% correctly, but yeah, you know, sort of the spokesperson. I saw her as the spokesperson for the county executives that would help also bolster and you know, we want to get as many people, as many stakeholders at the table within the county, so that when we take this idea to the Board of Supervisors, we sort of say, yep, it's been shopped around with OEI and communications is on board, and here's how they can assist. And maybe it is in that community engagement, right? Like, who's going to help us execute this plan?
Right. Well, we also reached out to DHR, the Office of Public Information, and they sent me a very nice survey that I used as a template to design a survey specifically. I think it's a 2-for-1. It could either be a survey for HP's, the Historic Preservation Committee at large, and or the subcommittee. And if Chris's view would show that, please, so just get that in before we start closing down here, shutting down. I think more is always best. It can just be streamlined. It's an awful lot of information packed in there. But I think it's always good to have more, because you can always streamline what you don't need. So, and we have permission, courtesy of Randy Jones, to do what we will with that particular template. So I just think, I think it's designed in such, the questions are designed in such a way that it could go on the website, as we were talking about doing.
Yeah, it seems really relevant too. I say, does it start with question 4, or is that just
I don't know, I may have messed up something with
we just-
things
That's on me. There we go.
jump around, yeah.
Gotcha. It seems like this is really topical to our conversation in the earlier meeting around priorities,
Mhm.
and asking the board, having that check-in with the board to say, this is what we understand our top priorities to be. Maybe it's worth saying, this is what we're hearing from the community vis-a-vis this survey.
Mhm.
Are we cool? That might be.
Yeah, I think that, I just was thinking as I didn't say anything. I said, we'll just talk about it a little bit in the subcommittee meeting, but I was thinking this along the same lines. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I would absolutely support that. The more we can kind of develop a dialogue with the community, would be great.
I think so. I think so.
So what would we need to move this forward? And maybe you all have talked about that.
I just designed it, so I haven't gotten that far. What platform or where it would live, where it would be housed. I was thinking possibly the county website. We were talking about building. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it in a while. I'm not sure where we are, how much we have about HPC's business on there, but I think it would fit in that, into the scope of the work we're doing now. And those questions of design and to point to where we may go in the future. So that's what we're trying to ascertain from the public.
Can I put a note just for the minutes that says that Diane and Chris to coordinate with Emily Kilroy about moving that forward, or how it might be?
Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's why I say I don't know who's, and I'm glad you did bring, give us the update on Putnam, because I didn't know who was doing what in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. I had no clue.
I think that's where Emily comes in, because I think she's in term kind of right now until series positions filled for Office of Equity and Inclusion. So I think that's where the crossover is.
So you're saying she's coming, she's invited to the next meeting, is it?
No.
The 22nd or?
When Margaret gets back from vacation, I think she's going to try to pull Emily into the meeting that she wasn't able to attend that included Putnam and myself. which was more focused on just the kind of getting direction on how to move the historic marker program forward and answer some of those questions around budget and next year and what make sure we, honestly make sure we're not spinning our wheels, and kind of just a check-in. Is this still something that the county wants?
Right.
I'm happy to bring up this survey, but also, if it's something that you and Chris are pursuing, I don't want to, this is great. And however, we can all help support it. I just know it's hard for us to meet as groups outside of this venue. But it seems like it could be a great effort to supplement the work of the marker program, but really the Historic Preservation Committee at large, because it's
designed to kind of a two for kill two birds with one stone.
I think that's great. I think our meeting in November has been canceled, so we might have to wait until December to bring it to the full committee, but that shouldn't. Is that, we canceled
we're not doing
December meeting.
Right.
November is still on.
Thank you for that. Let me make sure that's corrected in the meeting minutes.
December was because it was right after the Monday, right after Christmas.
Gotcha. Next meeting is November 22nd.
So yeah, then we wouldn't meet until the January meeting after November.
Okay, thanks. Well, does anyone have anything?
Does that get incorporated into the draft, or is that something we don't want to do to include into the draft at this juncture? I think it's just let it stand alone for now.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes when you create a survey, right, you're thinking about what are you trying to glean from that? So if what we're trying to glean is interest in the local marker program, we should certainly work those questions into the survey so that we get some responses back. Right. Not leading the witness, but sort of honing in on, is that thing desired?
Right.
But I think it's a standalone effort. But it could certainly go into our rationale.
Once we get feedback, and
if we get feedback, we can say, hey, this is, per this survey, we know there's support or something like that.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Chris.
Yep, no problem.
Peter, Betsy, anything from you all?
Nothing more from me.
Liz, I just had a quick one. I've been impressed by the professionalism of the documents that you and Diane have been producing. I feel a little bit like watching the carousel go around and trying to determine if there's an entry point in terms of helpful anything. And I haven't seen one, but I have this sense of guilt of just watching the merry-go-round and not pushing the merry-go-round. So I would love, if at any point you need help with anything, anyone on the committee, please let me know where I might be able to offer some assistance. I'm trying to look at documents with an editorial eye. I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
I have two ideas. We have, if you are interested in picking something up. So of the 5 markers that there's one more marker that the committee said we would complete, and it is on the topic is the Glendower School in the Keene vicinity. I've had a few conversations with, I've talked with Lorenzo Dickerson about this. I spoke with Ed Brooks, who is, very much involved in the Yancey Community Center and the kind of Porters, Keene, Esmont, Southern Albemarle neighborhoods. The Glendower School is on a private property called Glendower. And I'm trying to just go back and remember the information about it, but of the many things it did, there was a famous attendee, Eugene Allen, who attended that school, was from a farm outside of Scottsville and would walk 4 miles to go to that farm. I think he might have been, yes, lived in Scottsville on Langhorne Road and walked like 4 miles to Glendower. And then he later went on to work in the White House under and I'm going to get my facts wrong, but under 4 presidents he worked, and was a very renowned and important, person in history. We have some draft text for that marker, and my work on it just sort of languished. The things that we would still need to do, I think, would be to research and feel good about the language proposed in the text, but also to try to figure out where a good appropriate place to cite it would be. It's kind of well, it's off of Scottsville Road, but you can't really pull over anywhere, and I just kind of lost momentum on it. Frankly, just trying to get some other things accomplished. And I think, Diane, were you also involved?
Beverly A.G. Burden has been taking the helm on trying to get some. There are a lot of things, legalities that are going on. I'm not too clear on where she is with everything, but I think it's church-owned property. And it said something about, she had mentioned something about, should the church continue to pay taxes? Who's responsible for the taxes on the property? She does not own the property. I thought that she did initially.
Are you talking about the community center or the Glendower School? Because I think there's two different things, right?
I might be talking about the community center.
There
Wait a minute.
is a
Let me look back on my notes.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's one thing to try to, I think that the school actually moved to the community.
No, it's the school in Keene. That's what I have here. We are nominating 2 schools for historic markers. We are in discussion about nominating 2 Glendower schools for historic markers and would appreciate your consent to place a DHR marker at or near the Glendower School site in Keene. So yeah.
Yeah, I think though that the original Glendower School, the one that is sort of a frame dwelling that Ed Lay originally sent out a picture of, it's like a little tan building, is on a part of an estate.
Okay.
And then my understanding was that the school actually, the school moved, not physically, but the function of the school later moved to the community center that's located down the road that goes maybe towards the dump. Is that, or there was a proposed landfill or something?
We were talking about 2 Glendower locations, one in Esmont and one in Keene. I was only speaking to the one in Keene. So we just need to probably start out fresh with that one pretty much and finding out what's going on, because
yes, if there is still,
yeah,
if we want to, I can send you a lot of information about that. And I think if that's something we want to pursue, or we just say that, maybe not this year, it's kind of it's up for grabs is what I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I think with timing, was that supposed to be a DHR? I'm trying to jog my memory on that one. It's been some time. Was there going to be a DHR marker, or we still hadn't figured out which direction that was going? I was just,
I don't think-
just thinking out loud because if it was, it's probably too late for DHR approval for the.
That's
this-
true. Well, I wonder if it wouldn't be worth just reaching out to DHR to even try to get direction on whether it would be
Yeah.
right, because what we've learned is that we've sort of learned this is new information, that in crafting our local marker program, which we're still very much under development of doing, the DHR still wants the opportunity to review our proposed local markers topics. And I think from that, be able to say, oh, you know what, this one might be of state importance. So in that this individual from this school rose to, sort of national prominence, I don't know, they might look at that through a national importance lens, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the topic of the marker. It could be significant in its own local context, and that would just be something we could all think about.
You're
Pete, you're
muted.
muted.
One last question on a different marker topic.
Can we stay on this one real quick? I think Pete wanted to ask a question.
Oh, I was just Googling and saw that this is the gentleman that was the inspiration for the movie.
That's
Oh,
right.
that's cool. I'm happy to run with it. Probably need two resources. Liz, you said you have some documentation. I've tried to jot down notes, but names I was taking very quickly. So that might be helpful. And then just the process of interacting with the folks that in the other entities. I don't know them or have contact information, so I might need just a little bit of hand-holding, and then I could, try to take a few more steps on my own.
Sure. And it sounds like Diane's had some conversations with community members, but before we go too far, we should probably clarify what schools and sort of like where we're talking about, and make sure we're on the same page about that, because I think that there might be two different structures and sort of two different time periods. Maybe it's all part of one big story about the school that was here, that moved to here, and then the community had, I don't, but I kind
Yes, to
of,
both.
it's kind of jogging my memory that was what I had I had gone down that rabbit hole too. We can follow up on that, Pete.
Thank you.
Now, are you ready for my question?
Ready.
Okay, good. Have we given any more thought to the Brenwana Motel?
Well, this would be, so the question is, does the committee continue to nominate markers, or does this program transition into a program in which markers are submitted by community members?
Or can it be both?
Could it? That's not how the program is currently structured, but it could be a consideration.
Because I continue to think that the Brenwana Motel would be a logical addition to getting a marker, either local or state. The fact that Martin Luther King stayed there when he visited Charlottesville in 1963, and all sorts of very famous Black bands stayed there when they came to perform in Charlottesville, I think would make a fascinating marker, even though there's nothing that remains of the Brenwana Motel.
I think it's just a matter of, excuse me, Betsy, I don't mean to cut you off. It's just a matter of, we're not going to make any DHR cycles right now, but I think it's definitely something that we're going to really, I think, think about putting on the front burner, because there is community. We have generated community interest with the work that I think it was Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, and what was his name, the former director, Coy, barefoot,
Coy
did a whole exhibit on the Brenwana. It's just like all that information is there. That's why I always say, or we always question whether, you know, you want to reinvent the wheel, because that exhibit has been done and the family has put on loan at that time for that exhibit all kinds of fascinating information. So yeah, they're very much interested in pursuing that. And I think that specific, because I have talked with them, family is interested in that particular marker, but in terms of a marker program at large, that's a whole different, you know, strategy. But if we're talking about one marker at a time strategy, that one is definitely, I think, one that's on the, I like the idea because of preserving it, because it is on the endangered Virginia Preservation.
That's right.
list. Yeah. But I don't think there's a problem with it being considered either way, because it's community driven. I know that for a fact. And I think that it's just not, we're not going to make that cycle, right, in any of the cycles.
It could be something where we
so-
invite, we sort of extend an invitation for that. Another thought I had is, in terms of the work that the Historic Preservation Committee does, is some of what we do submit state highway markers, state DHR markers for consideration. And is that a process that is right outside of the local marker program? I can't remember that. Chris, you probably know, the county still pays for those markers, right?
Right, yeah.
So whether
They
it's a
were
local
similar.
marker or a
DHR marker.
DHR marker, we're still footing the bill. So I wonder how, so I'm just trying to think of how we would craft that into our, our program. It could be that we try to, install a certain number of local markers a year, and we set aside a little pot of money for state ones that come up, just like with Union Run, and that sort of get pulled out and say, you know what, we're going to send this one on a different path if that applicant is interested. And I don't know, that's just sort of me thinking out loud about how that possibly could work.
Right. Are we tapping into OEI for any of that, those ideas? exchange of
OEI?
Ideas? Mhm.
Yeah, I'd very
Yeah. Yeah.
much like some direction, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Chris, do you have something?
Sounds
Yeah, I
doable.
just want to let everybody know we have 7 minutes, so we don't get to the
Yeah.
cutoff period. But
So
just
go ahead.
and also to add just the thought of it could be Brenwana could be a potential queue up of, we have 1 or 2 markers that we queue up for next year, and then halfway through the year we jump into, hey, we have this local historic marker program, here goes 2 markers. Because it seems like the local historic marker program might take a little bit longer to kind of formulate and really get together. So
Sounds like a
even if
nice
you have 1
pitch.
or 2 markers,
Keep momentum, keep
yeah.
that excitement building. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Sounds like a great pitch. Yeah, great. Generates interest, excitement.
One of the hindrances, of course, we have in this committee is that we're sort of forced to work, because of the constraints of FOIA, we're forced to work alone, when I don't think that's what any of us really want to do, right? That's but because we're constrained, we create these silos in which if I'm working with Nancy, working with Ivy Creek Foundation is a great example, or me working with on the Virginia Lee Murray, sort of in a somewhat isolated and unable to really collaborate with the committee members. So that's my only.
If I could, Liz, interrupt you for just a minute to tell you that there may be a different understanding. I'm also on the Village of Rivanna Citizens Advisory Committee, and 2 of us are allowed to interact, and it's not a public meeting. And
Yes,
I'm
but what's the
happy to
size
send-
of it? Has to do with what a quorum is.
Okay, well, in
So-
fact, the Village of Rivanna Citizens Advisory Committee is smaller than this committee. So I'll happily forward you the language that was forwarded to us but two of
Yeah.
us are
I
allowed.
think what she's saying is, as long as there's 5 people on your committee, 2 do not make a quorum. 3 makes
Yeah.
so the 2 are fine. But if you,
That's what I'm saying, 2 are fine, 3 is
And we have
not.
4 on our committee.
okay. Yeah, we need 1 more member on this committee to make 2 fine.
Well, let's draft somebody.
Well, you know,
One
we're
more
about to, we can let's table that for now.
I
But,
bet you
you
think
know-
that's a good idea. If we can get 1 more person, then we're good to go.
If we want to be the ones continuing to run the program rather than creating a framework in which, you know, at some point, well, I don't know, you know, we have to create we have to sort of like craft and articulate our vision, and then sort of set it off on its path, right? Like, this is the process, this is who meets when. And I think I feel very much on a carousel of my own creating in that, trying to get that product out.
I just always say it reminds me so much of when we were in grade school. And we used to have these things called SRA readers. And the kids were always looking over their shoulder. I'm in the green one, someone's in the gold one, and feeling left behind, instead of the kids kind of collaborating and working together and helping another kid. That's how it feels. It feels like the SRA Readers Program, where you're made to be little corporatists and you compete against one another. And that's kind of not, that's kind of counterproductive as to what a community-based program is all about. So hopefully some of those things will be worked through. But I always say, I feel like, oh, the SRA Readers Program. Oh.
Well, I will make it a point to try to get clearer direction that we can, direction that we can come away with and know what we need to do next, right? From OEI, from communications, because, we could ask for.
Yeah, because it feels like a deficit. If I know the community over there in Sismon, and then what's going on? It's just kind of crazy. We're working as one summer committee. And then I started out with one thing with them. And then now, and then they're asking, where are you? And then, well, I think Liz is doing something over there, but I'm not exactly sure what. It's just not, it's just messy. I don't like it. Yeah. Yeah. So
We have about a minute.
okay.
Right now.
Well, I'm ready to
That's
go.
it, folks.
Okay. Well, thanks to all for the time.
All right. Thank you.
See you
Good to
next time.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.